Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to an auxiliary episode of the first ever Tale of Four Gamers. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. In this episode, we're going to revisit our first Tale of Four Gamers because that was over a year ago now that we did our first Tale of Four Gamers, which was building 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy armies, and the yearly anniversary came up and we did the event again with a bit of an expansion. So we'll go through all of that after this. Hi, everybody. Yes. So welcome back to, episode lots of Tale of Four Gamers 5th edition from last year. So let's explain what happened. So obviously last year, the first Tale of Four Gamers we did was a 1,500-point army for 5th edition Warhammer Fantasy Battle, which was our excuse to break out some old models and build some old armies. We played the campaign that was in the back of the original 5th edition starter sets Battles book, which is like this campaign where you start with a minimum amount of stuff, very restricted, and then you have territories that you roll up, and those territories give you access to like war machines or monsters or champions or heroes or wizards. And that then through the campaign, you can, when you beat other people, you might win their territories. And that means you have more access to stuff, so your army gets better. That was really fun. We all enjoyed that, I think. Yeah, I mean, I did a Khorne army with a Bloodthirster in it, which was it worked very well. Let's just say a Bloodthirster was exactly half of the absolute maximum characters you could have. Bobbie, you did Undead.
I did indeed. Well, Vampire counts.
Vampire counts, of course, because of 5th edition. Yeah. Gary did Fimir, which were an Orc and Goblin army.
Yeah, Orc and Goblin army book, yeah.
Lots of ogres to represent the Fimir using the Forge World Fimir models.
Yeah, so it was Forge World Fimir as ogres, which could be taken in blocks and count as the core troops. And then the counts as was the war boss had to be like an orc. So
on a Forge World tracker.
I picked one with closest possible to ogre stats so that he matched the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Russ, you assembled a old 80s Slaves to Darkness. I guess it would have been Realms of Chaos army.
Yeah, Zinchi.
Chaos Warriors.
Chaos Warriors.
Yeah.
Had some warriors, some marauders, a couple of chaps on discs. Had good fun doing it the first time, yeah.
Yeah, and so if you want to watch that, then that's all on the Tale of Four Gamers playlist. It'll be the first 5 or 6 episodes, is us building all of that.
That's 9.
Was it 9 episodes?
No, hang on, tell a lie. Sorry.
Jesus.
Well,
right.
there's the one you did about the actual campaign. There's session 0.
Yes, that's right.
5 updates, and then the finale, and then the event. So there's a total of 9 videos from the original version we did.
Well, you can go and
look at it.
Consume 9 hours of content while you paint if you want to listen to us build those armies. But
no, because that was back when we did it quickly. That was back when we did it quickly, and each episode was only about 15 minutes.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, yeah. 6 minutes, 23 minutes, 15, 16, 21, 23, 14. Yeah, we were good at it back then.
Yeah. So since then, obviously, Ben, who ran the campaign, who is a friend of ours who runs a lot of these fun campaigns, decided to do it again. So we got us back together. There were slightly more people, I think, this time. Went to Warhammer World again, booked out 8 tables, something like that. There were some new people. There were some old people. There were some changes to the rules. This time, we went to 2,000 points. And I think he allowed more magic items and things in the start, which affected the weekend, I think, in a different way. But we all went up. We all stayed in Nottingham. We had a fun few games of 5th edition again and brought our armies. And we also all painted new things, which we'll get to. We'll do that as our update. We all painted new things and added them to our armies, which is really nice. So we all got a bit of an expanded thing. And yeah, how did everyone find it? Did you all enjoy a bit of mega size 2,000 point fantasy battle?
Yeah, I had a great time. I really enjoyed my games.
Yeah. Did you feel like you knew your army a bit more, Gary?
Definitely. I'm also learning the game a lot more, like when's the right time to make your charges, or or not.
I think I still must have spent the first whole game trying to remember how the game worked, and then it sort of went okay. I think the last time I played was that event.
Yeah, it was for me. I should have somehow organised a warm-up game because I was a little bit rusty.
Did you get up to speed though, Bobbie? Did it all come back to you?
Yeah, I mean, with Vampire Counts, I wasn't playing the shooting phase, and I don't take any psychology tests or anything, so I was only playing about half of the game anyway. It took me a little while just to remember how because I had some new units and was taking some different magic items, so those were the kind of things I had to learn.
Yeah. I had a similar thing. Like one of the reasons I chose Khorne to Daemons originally was because I don't need to do a shooting phase. I don't need to do a magic phase. Barely need to do a psychology tests. So it seemed like a good idea for learning a new system, right? Because it was easy. But it was a little more complex this time, which we'll get to. But it was fun. It was really good. We played the similar sort of campaign, right? There was a bit more flexibility in the territories you could generate.
Yeah, they still rolled up some territories, but you got to pick one, was it? Or
yeah, you could swap one out for like a set of standard territories. Yeah, and then the story continued. So, if you didn't know, at the end of the last game, I don't think last time I won every game, but I certainly won the majority. And there was a quest where you were trying to find crystals and stones and magic items, and it came down to a fight between my Bloodthirster and Willard's High Elf. Obviously, my Bloodthirster won, and the Badlands became the Batlands. Batface the Bloody was in charge. And he ruled over the Batlands. So this year, the contest was to reclaim the Batlands from Batface the Bloody, which was another campaign where people were trying to find magic items. Everyone played free gaming for 2 days, trying to get magic items off of each other and discover them. And then everyone who'd found one got to fight Batface on his temple at the end of the weekend to see who would be the next king of the Batlands. And I will spoiler it now by saying Batface was eventually defeated, though he did take a lot of heroes down with him in that game.
Magic items, Ian.
We'll get to all that. So let's just go through what we all did and what we added up. So Bobbie, let's start with you. How did you do? What did you paint new things for this?
I did already have about I think when we ended the last one, I had about 3,500-4,000 points worth. But I have somehow managed to paint even more undead. Ian very kindly sent me most of a zombie dragon. I just had to sculpt a new head for it. And I converted a rider to match my...
I think we should point out, just had to sculpt a new head, but also with the full approval and support of Trish Carden herself, right?
Yeah, the original sculptor. She seemed to think I did an all right job, which is a huge compliment.
Amazing.
Because she sculpts the best monsters, definitely the best miniature monsters. I converted a rider to sort of match the vampire that I'd brought on foot the first time round. I also painted up some 10 white cavalry that were absolutely useless, but they looked cool.
Why did you decide to paint them white instead of another colour, Bobbie?
No, white with a GHT. That kind of.
I don't know why I made that joke.
I don't know what you did either. I think I also painted up an extra necromancer, or finished painted in a necromancer, just because I wanted a particular sculpt.
You can never have too many necromancers.
And I still have a bunch more things to paint up for that army. I've got more spirit hosts. I got some fellbats. I think the only thing I'm missing from the book is spider swarms. I don't have any spider swarms.
I've got loads of those.
Yeah, I want the old Hero Quest spiders, which are now very expensive, but they're era correct for the rest of my army. I painted up quite a few extra bits and pieces in the end.
And how did your saga unfold at the event?
So the first day went very well. Mostly my army would move up the table, sort of stand there, not do much because they're undead and they're not very good. The white cavalry in particular managed to do first turn charges, I think, in every single game I play.
Oh, wow.
And then would do like a wound and then all horribly die. They were just terrible. I don't know. I need to do something different with them. I think they need a different banner and maybe take lances instead of just spears and try and do something with them, or put a proper hero in them instead of just having 10 whites.
Mm-hmm.
I need to put like a vampire or something fighty in there to actually do the damage.
Yeah.
Essentially, the first two games I played against. First game I played against orcs and goblins, and my zombie dragon just sort of swooped in on the second turn and just started eating whole regiments. Like when I would go up against a regiment of I think like 20 plus orcs and just massacred half of them, and then the rest ran away. And of course, it pursued and killed them and ran into the next unit and just carried on munching its way through. I'm trying to think who my second game was against. Nathan's Dark Elves, which was a very similar story of I got into the whites and his cold ones got into a fight, and that lasted a while until my zombie dragon swooped in from behind and just started eating the cold ones. Like beat Nathan's lord up. And
brilliant. I mean, that is what dragons. There were a lot of dragons on the board this time. Almost like someone took a bloodthirster last time, and everyone was bringing something to try and defeat it. That
zombie dragon and vampire plus all the magic items was like 800 points or something like that. So it was a very expensive. It's almost half my army. That, and I think the two necromancers was my allowance of half my army points.
Feels very appropriate for undead, though. Did you get any of the magic artifacts?
Yes, I did indeed, because I had a ruins to start with. I was rolling for magical artifacts every turn, every game, pre-game, and I got the Book of Kadon, which boosted up my magic even more, which was very handy. Mm-hmm. Then on the second day, I played a 3-player game with Ben and his lovely Batronians, which he'd done in his Tale of Four Gamers. You should definitely go and watch.
Yes, we should say that, Ben's done a Tale of Four Gamers for this, where he's built his army and then done a bit more of he was recording on the day, like interviews with people as they finish their games. So if you want the in-depth version for the whole event, I'll link Ben's video below.
His Bretonians and Lee's very bright red Chaos army. I don't feel like I did much in that game. I just sort of got into a few combats. My vampire on zombie dragon decided to have a go at the Chaos Lord on Manticore, but completely whiffed and then ran away and then ran off the board, and then most of my army decided to leave. So that was a very quick game for me. And my fourth game was against High Elves, and somehow my zombie dragon also whiffed against a single High Elf Lord in a challenge, and again left the table. So my entire army evaporated. That game was cursed from the start. I managed to, my good necromancer managed to lose in a mind duel against the High Elf mage early on, like in the very first turn. I lost my Staff of Damnation, so I couldn't march my army up into the High Elf's face. It was just literally over on the second turn. That was the end of the game.
Lose your special gem, so you couldn't participate in the final battle as well?
I did indeed. In that, that elf did get the my book and ended up in the final battle instead.
Elves. Terrible. Brilliant. But you good. Well, like you it sounds like a dramatic story. The undead in the old world there. And you got to use a few more things, I guess.
Yeah, I did. It was definitely a different army list from the first event, although I did still bring my tar pits of zombies and my armored skeletons, who did the same thing as they did in the last games, which is just stand there and die and then be resurrected and then die and then be resurrected, and just it's very hard to beat an army that keeps coming back to life, which is how vampire counts play.
Dragon looks absolutely fantastic. That's a really good thing.
I'm very happy with how it's come out. I did try and imitate the sort of greenish color scheme of the studio version of that dragon, but I think I managed to modernize it just a smidge.
Looks great. Brilliant. Gary, how did you get on with your Fimir?
really good time. Adding an extra 500 points was a load of fun. So I started joined in the Tale of Four Gamers, agreeing to do fantasy because it let me get monsters and war machines and all the high fantasy elements. So yeah, so just after we finished the last Tale of Four Gamers for the
last year,
yeah, I as a reward for doing well in the games that they played, I bought them a giant, which is the River Hag.
Yeah, the Forge World Troll Hag. Yeah.
Yeah, so while we were at Forge at Warhammer World, I popped into the Forge World sort of area and was like, oh, yeah, look at that, got that. And I also picked up a cockatrice after the thing. And again, two Trish models, two wonderful Trish models.
Yeah.
So my army is actually looking like it's half Trish now because I have the Carmine Dragon, which she sculpted, got a cockatrice and the hag. And my other dragon is a part resin, part Forge World, one of those hybrid plastic.
Yes, the Warp Fire, isn't it?
Yeah, the Warp Fire. It's the plastic half was made by Trish. Because it's a dark elf dragon that she designed, and then someone else has sculpted on. I should find out who, but they don't tell you on the packaging. I just know that she did that dragon, but it's only half her dragon. You
didn't actually bring both dragons in any of the games, though, right? Which I reckon you could have got away with it, given the filth that was on those tables.
So I did make a double dragon list, but I didn't unleash it on anyone. I thought it's a bit too much to double dragon. And I run the white dragon in every game. I much prefer the white dragon abilities, although the Carmine Dragon is a beautiful model. I painted it green because I didn't know that green meant something. So they were like, oh, so you've got acid. And I was like, oh, if I'd have known that, I might have picked a different color, but I was painting it. Yeah, so I painted up the Warpfire one white so I could have a Frost Dragon, which is clearly the best dragon.
There were a few. It is definitely the best dragon.
You can just tie up so much of a person's army and then start slowly dismantling them.
Yes, the Frost Dragon has like an absurdly flexible breath weapon where anyone hit with it is pretty much misses a turn. Yeah.
And you just stay there. If the rest of your army is doing stuff, you just stay there freezing them in spot as long as you can. And then the dragon can munch away at stuff, and then next turn I'll just freeze some more stuff and then munch. Yes, I painted up the River Hag for this event. I painted up a few more war machines. And when we rolled terrain, although I was building 5 more war machines, which was a bit ambitious, I only got enough terrain to field 3 or 2.
Yeah.
The 2 rock lobbers made it to the event. But I also got to bring the cockatrice and, so I had a really monstery list, It's like,
yeah.
And when I was putting it down, I was like, oh, look at this, all these great big monsters. And my first game came up against Skaven. And the guy was taking them out of the box. And he was like, there's your unit, there's your unit. And I was like, okay, there's an army. And there's another unit, there's another unit. And I was like, okay, and there's another unit, and there's another unit, and there's another unit, and there's another unit. And I was like, what the hell's happening? It was literally like, it looked like about 6 times as big as my army. I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And then he's like, and then here's a doom wheel, and here's a doom wheel. And I'm like, all right, it is 2,000 points we're playing. And it was a great game.
How much are Skaven slaves? It's like 3 points a model for clan rats, isn't it? Or something
yeah. He was playing like multiple massive squads. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, so he had like about 7 units of slave rats, like to shield all his big units, his good stuff. So like on turn 1, I just landed the dragon in the middle of it, and they all started turning around and running away. And he's like, yeah, but the rest of my army don't care if Skaven run away, if slave rats run away. They don't care. They're like, nah, slaves running away, it's normal. But yeah, dragon started freezing his big blocks so they couldn't do anything. And I was just keeping the dragon off to the side so that his sorcerer couldn't get involved. But the game came on stuck at the end when a sorcerer cast something crack. Can't remember the name of the spell. Basically, it opened up a big gap in the floor, and I had to roll an initiative test. I would pass on anything but a 6. But I rolled a 6, and my dragon plummeted down into this hole. And then I lost on points. one dice away from winning. Yeah, that was a great game. Very thematic. It was crazy. I had a bit of a rivalry. He had a Doomwheel did a drive-by and electrocuted my troll, my river hag. I was like, oh, that's terrible. So I set the cockatrice on it, and for about 3 turns, it just followed the Doomwheel trying to turn it to stone. Yeah. So I was just following it and going to, let's see if your driver looks behind. Come on, and yeah, so the cockatrice did turn the Doomwheel to stone, so I kind of claiming a bit of a victory there.
You played me, didn't you?
Yeah, game 2 was against you. Terrified of Batface, so my game plan was to freeze him on the spot, hold him there until the cockatrice looked at him.
Yeah.
And basically that worked a little bit. I mean, I held you down for like 3 turns on the spot. The cockatrice got to look at you once. Batface rolled 5. On a 6, he would have been stone.
Yeah.
And then you set the dogs on him.
Yeah, and then the cockatrice died.
Yeah, the cockatrices are not very robust.
No, your hag charged my bloodletters and then lost and ran away.
Wait, she did pick up your leader. And,
she did pick up the champion, yeah.
Yeah, and squished him. I really wanted to put it in the bag.
You don't get to pick. You have to roll.
Yeah, roll the dice, and she squished him dead, which is...
And yeah, you pinned Batface extremely frustratingly in place for 3 turns.
I could sense his rage building.
And then he killed the entire army.
Then he killed everyone, yeah. It's like as soon as the leash came off, it was like, right, you lost.
You did in that game manage to blow up both of your own rock lobbers, though.
Yeah, they weren't very good. Rock lobbers are a lot of fun. Sometimes they're remarkably, like devastating, and other times that they just keep whiffing off to the sides or malfunctions. What can you say?
Brilliant. It sounds like it was lots and lots of fun. Yeah, and games the next day, and yeah.
Yeah, and day 2 was good. I had a really sort of stalematy type game against Empire. It was really good. And then my last game was against High Elves, and I managed to just squeak a win on points. Yeah, good stuff.
So a success for the Fimir. Didn't get any of the gems, didn't end up in the final fight. I think it might have been a bit of a problem if you got into the final fight. Actually, both those, there were no dragons in the final fight. None of the dragon teams managed to get a stone or a precious item. So yeah, both of you avoided the final battle. Russ, you came just for 1 day, didn't you?
Yeah, so I was at a birthday party the night before, so I left London about 10 p.m, drove to Nottingham, got to Nottingham like gone 1 a.m, and so just there for 1 day. But I've been playing a lot of 5th edition over the last year since the last time anyway. I think more than the rest of you. I've played not as many as I would have liked, but I've played a lot. So I had sort of 2,000 points painted. The only thing I painted for this was you'll remember when we first started this project a million years ago, one of the first things I did was convert a load of Chaos Spawn from Minotaurs.
Yeah.
We finally painted one of them, still got 6 more to do. And yeah, I've got I built my dragon, built my giant and things like that. But my only new thing for this was my new Chaos Spawn, which isn't actually in my list because there was a reason I had it.
Yes, which was.
So yeah, we played in the afternoon, and in the should we call it an arms race between everyone to power up to be able to fight Batface. I powered up my sorcerer to be a Chaos Sorcerer Lord, and he was on a disc with various items. Most important of which were the Helm with Many Eyes and a was it Blade of Change or Sword of Change or whatever it's called? Yeah. So my cunning plan was I'm not going to kill Batface the Bloody. I'm just going to turn him into a Chaos Spawn of Tzeentch.
Which you did.
Which I did. I mean, he got better.
He did get better. Yeah.
He did get better in terms of the final battle.
Yeah.
I got better. But yeah, that was a fun game. It was I think it was one of those games we just played it being silly, really. We both basically charged at each other. Was it, which one of us went? I think you flew to the top of the hill first.
Yeah, and then you flew up on
the top of the
into a
craggy
goblin
mountain. And I turned up on my disc and hit you. And then my spawn fell off and survived and just ran around for a little while whilst the rest of our armies had a fight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a laugh. It was one of those games where it's like, right, we're clearly not doing this out of anything other than seeing what silly things can happen. But yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about the real victor of the weekend, I think it's the person who turned Batface the Bloody into a Chaos Spawn.
I agree.
I still think you were right with your plan for the final battle.
Yeah, I was then going to play the final battle as a Chaos Spawn. I had set up this whole scenario, this whole ritual scenario to kill Batface the Bloody. That would have meant that basically whoever got to charge first would have killed the spawn.
Yeah, he got better. That's what matters. The NHS, this is why we need to save the NHS.
Yeah.
So because without the NHS, Batface would have remained in the grip of chaos.
It's true. So yeah, it also didn't get a stone, so none of you were in the final battle.
No.
So witness the saga of Batface the Bloody. So Batface the Bloody won the Batlands last year, and since then he settled down and started a farm and raised some goats, which obviously went predictably wrong. So I, for my extra 500 points, I basically took the same army as last year, and the only difference was, because it was now a larger points limit, I could give Batface all of his absurdly powerful weaponry to start with. Because last year he was 750 points to start with, and then I had to win a few games to be able to afford his big axe. Because he has to be, your warband has to be as powerful as him. So 750 point base Bloodthirster is like, you can't add more to him, and the warband have to be exactly 750 points to be able to take it. Blah. This time round, I could give him his axe and his armor, and then I could take a few extra bits in the warband to just bump it up, extra champions. And then with the remaining 300 or 400 points, I took Goatface the Snuffly, a Beastman Chief, and a great big squad of Beastman Gores. Because I was thinking I'd have like a big, tough squad. I wanted a squad with a lot of bodies and a lot of wounds, because Bloodletters aren't that tough. And it could plod up the center and be tough goats. So it worked in some games, but yeah. So the objective was to kill Batface, and I think that had an effect on the layout of the whole thing. But basically, yeah, I had a fun time. So I took those Beastmen. One of the boards that Ben had booked on the first day was this big temple that we had done our final battle on last year. So I claimed that as Batface's temple and just stood at one end of the hall yelling, "Who will fight me?" for the first day. I fought 2 Chaos armies, both of which I roundly killed, and then Gary came to fight me, and it was touch and go because of all the freezing by a dragon, but eventually I killed him. All good. Second day, not as successful. We didn't have that table, so Batface had to venture out into the Batlands to see why all these people were coming to see him suddenly and try and fight him at the temple. I played the Skaven army, which was difficult. He had a lot of units. It was the hidden deployment one, which was a bit of a benefit. I could set up right on one end, which meant that mostly his massive squads just got in the way of each other. But he had taken the Van Horseman Speculum, which is basically he'd taken a Skaven warlord and a great big squad specifically to make it difficult to fight Batface. So Van Horseman Speculums swaps the 2 characters' weapon skills, strength, and attacks. And he'd also taken the Talisman of Ravensdark, which means any flying monsters are only hitting on 6s. Basically, Batface spent the game running away, which he had done already. Batface had already spent a game where I won it in the end, but running away most of the game. Because while Bloodthirsters are big and scary, against a 4-rank unit with a general and a banner and a load of stuff, they're going to still probably lose combat unless they do really well. So Batface ran away that one, and then of course in my 5th and final game, he was turned into a spawn by Russ. Of course, he did get better from that. And then we played this big final scenario at the end where everyone who'd found one of the gems came to the temple and fought Batface. We drew cards to determine initiative order. And basically, I was up against Lee's Chaos Lord on a Manticore, an elf on one of those big chickens. There was an elf with a bow and an elf on foot. So there was a lot of elves. And I thought I'd just go straight into the biggest thing because, Batface. So Batface jumped down, immediately killed Lee's Lord, then killed the Manticore, then jumped over and killed the high elf on a chicken, then killed the chicken. But the high elf on a chicken had the black amulet, which there was a lot of magic items floating around. High elf on a chicken had the black amulet, which took a lot of wounds off of Batface. And then I went to fight the next high elf on foot, and he had another black amulet, which eventually killed Batface. Now, we forgot a few rules. I forgot to make everyone be terrified. It could have been the case that the high elf would have run away. So he was eventually killed by probably the weakest character on that board, because I killed all the powerful ones with a Bloodthirster. I ended up with a Bloodthirster with like 2 wounds left. So by default, the high elf, one of the high elves has now ended up in charge of the Badlands again.
It's now the Elflands.
It's now the Elflands, I mean, I think Bobbie, you were hoping that you could win, and therefore it would be the Vampire Badlands.
Yes, that was what it's going to be, but not this year.
No, so it's now back in the control of elves. Fucking elves again. And yeah, I guess it's an interesting one, right? Because this felt very different to last year, and it's partly my fault because I did bring a Bloodthirster last year. There were some changes specifically to make sure that people had the things to kill a Bloodthirster. Batface wasn't silly. Like, he won 3 games and lost 2. But I think what I found interesting is, like, it did feel a lot like, I guess, beardier is the era appropriate word, right? This year.
There were definitely a lot nastier, like, magical item combos.
The 2,000 points, the ability to choose your own territories, and the loads of extra magic items you were allowed meant that an awful lot of the most egregious magic items all turned up multiple times. Everyone had like, oh, it's a dragon with a lord with this and with that on it. I think you had a terrible game against someone who was playing with like a high elf lord, a white dragon, which is the best dragon as we know, and 3 repeater bolt throwers. I think a few people had lists that were just like, wow, you have taken everything. You have taken, and I felt certainly at the end of it, I was like, great guys, we've done 5th edition.
I think you had a bad game, a bad matchup. It didn't go well. But I do think 5th edition's got a lot of fun. I do think I'm going to add more stuff to this army before I'm done with it. I will keep playing. I don't know how you guys think about it. You got more plans to add to it? Are you going to do a new army again, or?
I think Batface the Bloody is done now. I'm ambivalent. I felt like we'd just, in those 2 years, we'd gone from, we've done a fun 5th edition campaign which avoided a lot of the bullshit. And this year, we'd done the reason why they stopped Hero Hammer in the 90s. Right? Like, because obviously in 6th edition, all the heroes became way less powerful. It was much more like big unit game of maneuver. Whereas 5th edition was famous for Hero Hammer. And I feel like we've now experienced why.
Should we move up to 6th edition next time, you think?
I don't know. There's a lot more models involved. I think if I did another one next year, I'd probably bring a different thing. But realistically, I think next year everyone's going to be playing Old World.
Yeah, that's possible.
Probably right about Old World.
So reading between the lines in the community articles where they're talking about the new game, the Old World, it does seem like they're cherry picking the best bits from each edition. And if they get that right, it'll be amazing. But it'll be so easy for them to get it wrong.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
hit something like reactions in or something like that. And
I think there'll definitely be reactions in it, Gary. Every single Warhammer game has some method of reaction nowadays.
Yeah, it seems to be the new sort of what do you get to do when it's the other person's turn?
Yeah,
you know, like there'll be something in there which will just be, it'll upset the apple cart. But my fingers are crossed that they cherry pick all the best bits and get it right.
I think it's an interesting one. We'll see. I think there's definitely a desire to do Old World. I don't know if that'll stop 5th edition being a thing, but I think maybe I'm up for playing more with that army. But I'm not sure I'd want to do another big event with it, given that we're already at the point where everyone's like, I think if we did this again, I want it to go back to the old rules, like 1,500 points. I'll bring Beastmen or something.
Yeah.
Really restricted magic items, even more restricted than I even last year. I think there was. I could see doing another event, but I could see only if it was that thing. I think we've already reached a point where it's like, great, we're at maximum Warhammer. Let's see, but I think next year we'll Warhammer World, so we'll see. Yeah, it was really fun though. I really enjoyed going. I really enjoyed playing. I was probably a bit Warhammered out by the end. I probably didn't need, after 5 games of Warhammer Fantasy, to play the big face off at the end. But it was fun when we did it.
I think that was the reward for everyone else rather than you.
Yeah, it was fun when we did it. It was over pretty quick. Yeah. So I was pretty Warhammered out, and that army's back in the box. We'll see. We'll start on teeny tiny things next. But yeah. Well, good to get all the models out though. Good to do it again.
I'm looking forward to seeing. We're going to gradually see more and more teeny tiny models over the next few weeks.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got in store for us.
Yeah. Cool. Well, look, we will see you all. Thanks for everyone watching. Thanks for joining me once again. We will see everyone again next time when we return for the first episode of the next Tale of Four Gamers with teeny tiny everything. Which will have community input and all that sort of thing. So stay tuned, and thanks everyone. I'll see you all for the first of the next season of Tale of Four Gamers. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.